Hello everyone, my name is Maryam-Mokhtar. Yesterday, it was reported that an unnamed Tan Silli paid his former domestic worker more than 100,000 ringgits. Now, 2 years ago, the 43-year-old woman from Malang in East Java had sought refuge in the Indonesian Embassy in Kuala Lumpur after she fled from her wealthy employer. The Tan Silli is reported to be in his 70s. The maid had worked for 18 hours a day and she endured 12 years of constant scoldings and physical fatigue. She was also slapped. The maid did not have personal time or enough rest. For the first 7 years of her employment, she had taken care of the family of 6 adults and 2 infants in a large 5-bedroom house in Kota Damansara. Now, like many other cases of domestic worker abuse, this maid suffered long working hours, the withholding of wages, assault, passport retention, restriction of movement, and also abuse. After the mediation at the Indonesian Embassy, there is no indication if the employer will face any charges over the alleged offences. I think this is not right nor fair. What do you think? I think the employer should face the charges and pay interest for the 12 years of wages which he withheld. He should also pay compensation for the hurt, the pain and the suffering that she endured. 100,000 ringgits is not sufficient. Domestic workers are very vulnerable. And how many times have we read about maids who are beaten unconscious, who are starved, sexually abused, mentally abused, threatened, denied leave, and have their passports confiscated by their employers? So when will the Malaysian government punish employers who mistreat and, in the extreme cases, kill their maids? 4 years and 1 week ago, on 11th of February 2018, Adelina Lisau passed away. She was only 21 years old. She had bruises on her head and her face. The wounds on her body were not treated by the employer. And since her wounds were filled with pus, the employer's family did not want to be infected, so they forced her to sleep under the porch outside the house with the family pet dog. The autopsy results showed that Adelina had anemia and had died due from total organ failure. I do not think that her employer has been punished. The court should have reconvened on the 24th of January 2022, a few weeks ago. The employer who allegedly tortured Adelina had earlier avoided going to court by claiming that she was ill. I bet you that if Adelina had been sick during her employment, she would have been beaten and told off for being lazy. So why are our courts lenient on abusive employers? When will Adelina's family get justice? A few months before Adelina's death in 2018, a Cambodian maid, 24-year-old May Si-chan, weighed just 26 kilograms when she died. Remember that when you fly, your suitcase, which airlines allow you to carry, is heavier than what May Si-chan weighed. Many maids have died at the hands of their employers. Do not think that the employers are all uneducated people or are from the lower classes. Many are wealthy, highly educated, and they are from the elite, the rich and affluent parts of our community. Over the years, I have met some maids and their stories are very moving. Let me tell you now that not all employers are terrible, but there are many who are pure evil. And they consider maids as their slaves, their personal slaves. They think that as money has already been paid to the agency to obtain the services of a maid, These employers assume that they own the maid and can treat the maids as their own property. In many cases, they and their children are abusive to the maids. One domestic helper said that life with the employer was like going to prison. Once the gates to the property are shut, they feel very trapped and very vulnerable. Most of them do not want special treatment because all they want is fair, decent, and an honest working relationship. They left their comfort zones in Indonesia, Philippines, Thailand, Cambodia, and travel thousands of miles to earn a living. But many employers think that they are potential thieves and are lazy people. They're not. Now, many of these employers forget that without the maids, they cannot live the life of luxury and comfort. Who will clean the house, cook, wash, take care of the babies or the children? And the disabled, perhaps, and the elderly parents. Most people are not aware that the wannabe mak datin, or the high society couples and the social climbers, are the ones who like to show off their wealth. But they're also the ones who are most likely to employ illegal maids because they're cheaper. These wannabe mak datins lead a double life. They like to boast of their wealth, but they are too mean to afford a decent maid, and they will happily settle for an illegal one. When they are caught, these people have enough cables to the top, and so they pay bribes to the necessary people to get them out of trouble. These people are high society hypocrites, munafik. The following list are some of the ways that maids are mistreated. You probably recognize some people who do this. Number 1, employers who open their maids' personal letters. Number 2, employers who force their maids to work from 6 in the morning to 11 p.m., 7 days a week, without leave or breaks. Number 3, employers who do not allow their maids to receive phone calls from the maid's family, especially when the maid is worried about a serious illness in her own family. Number 4, every time the maid receives a phone call from her own family, her handphone is confiscated. In many cases, the employer will eavesdrop on the maid's personal conversation. I think that's very wrong. Number 5, when a glass or plate is broken, the salary is deducted from the maid's wages, despite it being an accident. Number 6, the maid's salaries are not paid promptly at the end of the month, but only when the maid leaves for holiday or on her final exit. Many maids find that they are not given interest for the salaries that were withheld. Number 7, the passports are taken from the maid as an insurance to stop the maid from running away. Hanging on to the maid's passport is against the law. Number 8, many helpers have no place to complain about abusive or unsatisfactory work conditions. Some find that the work conditions are not what they were told they should expect. For instance, they are told that they are there to look after a couple with 2 children. But some maids will find that they are to look after a much larger family, including the sick and elderly or disabled people and babies. Number 9, many helpers find that the situation where they work very stressful. They receive severe scoldings, insults, and beatings. And number 10, some maids face sexual assault and are fearful of lodging complaints, as few in authority will believe the word of a maid, especially if the employer is a datuk. So, what should maids do if they are threatened and warned not to lodge a complaint with the agency or even with their country's embassy? The reality for many helpers in Malaysia is that thousands of domestic workers receive all forms of exploitation from their employers. When will the Malaysian and Indonesian governments, as well as the countries that send workers to Malaysia, such as the Philippines, Cambodia, and Thailand, work together to increase protection for all domestic helpers? In the cases where helpers have died, their blood is on our hands. Some maids are forced to work in their employer's factory or work premises, and often these employers operate illegal factories, but the government closes both eyes because these factory owners have cables right to the top. In addition, many residential neighbours close their eyes even though they are aware that the maid in the house next door to them is being abused. So when will Malaysians sympathise with the suffering of maids and domestic workers from Indonesia and other countries in Southeast Asia? Why is it so difficult to get justice for these maids? When will the family of Adalina Lisau get justice? Thank you for listening. Speak to you soon. If you like my videos, please press like and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Please also visit my Patreon channel if you wish to sponsor me. Thank you.